I have Jan now here in my line. He is ready to take over. So I connected with him here on Balloon, and I'm waiting for him to come live. Maybe, Jan, you have to click connection again, or maybe the connection is taking a second. I don't see you just, here it goes. Hey, how are you doing?
Hello.
Good to see you. So, Jan, welcome on our virtual stage. You're the founder of Cileria, and today you want to talk about limitation of React Native, right?
Okay, I will start the presentation. Or can you hear me? Can you give me a sign? If yes, yes. Okay, you can hear me. That's good.
Absolutely
okay,
perfect.
I'll start sharing my screen now. Okay, so let's start. Today I want to talk about the limitations of React Native. And first of all, I want to introduce myself. Hello. My name is Jan, and I consider myself to be an expert in JavaScript, React, React Native, and I am the founder of Cileria.com, which is a web agency in Berlin. And we develop websites and apps. And furthermore, I'm an online teacher at Udemy.com, where I teach my students how to develop websites in React. And I'm also an offline teacher at the DCI Digital Career Institute in Berlin, which is a coding school. Okay, so I structured my little presentation into 3 points. First of all, I want to talk to you about the success of React Native. Then secondly, I want to clarify what React Native cannot do. And then lastly, I want to give you a little summary. So, these applications here, these apps have been built with React Native. And I'm really sure that most of you know the icons here. And I want to start with a little game. What do you think, which app icon belongs to which business? I'm going to give you like 10, 15 seconds, and you can take an educated guess here, and then I will reveal the solutions. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's start with the first one. I think this one was pretty easy. This is Facebook, also really easy. Instagram, Skype, everybody knows it. And then Uber Eats. This one was also easy because here the title is in the icon. Pinterest and maybe Bloomberg and Discord. You don't know these apps, but they also have millions and even billions of users. So, and all these apps combined have billions of users, which means that React Native is an application framework that is really serious about getting to the top of the application frameworks. So, why is React Native so successful? And let's start with the first point. React Native is platform independent, and this means that you can develop apps for both platforms, iOS and Android. And before there was React Native, you had to develop 2 apps in a separate programming language for 2 platforms. So for Android, you had to learn Java, and for iOS, you had to learn Xcode. So maybe you even had to hire additional programmers if one programmer is not enough. So this is, I think, in our economic context, in our context of having a business, in our context of looking at the cost, this is one of the major, or this is maybe the major reason why React Native is so successful. Now, the second reason is maybe not that apparent. It uses JavaScript. I mean, you can also use TypeScript, but most people use JavaScript for React Native. And now you people may wonder, wait, JavaScript? JavaScript is really ugly. JavaScript is not really a programming language. And JavaScript here doesn't have so many good parts compared to the rest of JavaScript. And I think that these experience that you guys have made are not that entirely false, because maybe let's have a look at this here. So this is like a console, and somebody typed some nice expressions into the console. And here we see the type of, not a number, is number. Great. If we type this really large decimal here in the console, JavaScript magically just rounds up to this decimal here. Great. Or here we see 0.5 plus 0.1 equals 0.6, which is, logical. But at the same time, if you do 0.1 plus 0.2, it's 0.3. This is false. Great. JavaScript rounds up some little decimals here, and nobody really knows why. And if we ask JavaScript, hey, give me the largest number that you have, JavaScript responds with, okay, minus infinity. Or on the other hand, give me the smallest number that you have, JavaScript gives us, infinity. Great. Or here, two empty arrays added to each other equal an empty string. Okay. Okay, this is okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so I don't know when exactly the sound stopped working, but let's get back on track here. What I'm just basically trying to say is that JavaScript is not a really well-designed programming language. However, JavaScript developers are in high demand. Why? Because learning JavaScript is quite easy on a basic level. On the pro level, it's really hard to learn. And JavaScript is really versatile. JavaScript is simply used everywhere. And the inventors of React Native, which are basically part of the Facebook company, they must have thought JavaScript is used everywhere. Let's use that for our framework. Why not? And so basically, web developers who are taught in JavaScript, they become React Native app developers. Backend developers who know how to code in Node.js and JavaScript backend, they just become React Native app developers. And of course, the already existing app developers, they just learn some JavaScript and then become React Native app developers. So basically, JavaScript is so widespread that you can use it everywhere, on the front end, on the back end, and even on the desktop now. You can build really desktop apps with Electron.js, for example. And now we have to face the reality here. The reality is simply that JavaScript is accidentally becoming what Java purposely was designed to become. One language for all platforms. So in the 90s, there was this big project Java, which
was the dream that one language for all platforms. But right now, JavaScript is the reality that one language for all platforms exists. So, and this is the second reason why React Native is so successful. The third reason is that if you know HTML, then you also know JSX. And basically, if you can design a website or whatever, then you can also design an application, a mobile application for your cell phone, simply by knowing some basic HTML. So you can basically convert websites into apps really rapidly. Now let's talk about something that React Native maybe cannot do. So what about camera? So if you want to build an app and the app is supposed to use your camera, does it work? Yeah, it's supported, no problem with React Native. GPS, like if you have, if you're developing a location-based chat messenger, whatever, GPS, yeah, supported as well, no problem, you can use that. Next one, Touch ID, if you want to create an authentication process that with the fingerprint authenticates your users, works, supported. Shake movement, if you, for example, if you shake your app, if you shake your cell phone around and you want to record those movements, is also supported, no problem with React Native. 3D graphics, if you want to build a 3D game, supported as well. File system, if you want to read out pictures or files that are stored on your cell phone, works as well. So is now everything supported in React Native? And the answer is yes, but it takes time until a new hardware feature is supported by React Native. But eventually React Native will support it. For example, the camera support. I think in 2017, the camera support was not there yet. So I think it was 1 year later or so, that 2018, that camera support was enabled in React Native library. And now, since React Native is so highly demanded, these delays get shorter, which means that new hardware features that are in your cell phone, they will be supported in a much lesser time span than like back in 2017. Now, another thing, performance. Okay. The ugly truth is that React Native apps use 10% more CPU than native apps on average. And we are just talking about normal apps, like where you have a list of something, you have a CRUD features you can create, you can read, you can delete, you can update something like I don't know, shopping apps or user management apps, these standard kind of apps. React Native is 10% slower than native apps written in Xcode or in Java. And when you create more computative tasks, it takes even like up to 30% more CPU usage. If you want to, for example, create a game, or if you want to create a crypto app, or where you use the CPU more, these come up with like more than 30%. So what about the battery usage? And I don't know if you ever had Facebook app, which was written in React Native, if you had it up and running in the background. When I have it, like, I don't know, my battery really is being eaten up really quickly. And the reason is that React Native apps, they use 20 to 30% more battery than native apps. This is also one thing where React Native has a little downside here. So to sum it up, first of all, React Native is easy to learn since it's basically just based on JavaScript and HTML. So for you guys who are IT project managers or CTOs or senior developers, and you're trying to figure out whether you should school new programmers, juniors, etc., to build an app and learn about it, React Native is really the way to go. Because if they already have some skills in HTML or JavaScript, it's really easy to make the bridge to building an app using React Native. Then secondly, React Native can do everything a native app can do, but there's always a certain support delay. So let's say a few months, maybe up to 1 or 2 years, until React Native supports new hardware features. And then last but not least, React, and this is like a big bottleneck, React Native still faces performance and battery issues. So if you have an app that, I don't know, is geo-based, location-based, and your users are running around in the city or whatever, they don't have any chance to charge their batteries, maybe React Native is not the best choice. So I really thank you guys for listening, and I hope I gave you some insights into my experiences with React Native, and thanks for watching.